Hello, everyone. I'm back with another try at Compressure. In between the last episode and this one, I did join the Discord and ask what's going on. And as a result of that, I still don't understand what's going on. I understand a little bit more. One of the theories that I had when I was doing this level was that you should treat this output pipe as if it were sort of blocked, right? We're sending in 100 psi steam, and we're like not sending it in as fast as it wants to go because this valve is only partially open. But if we just like did nothing, if we didn't vent here, eventually this pipe and whatever it's connected to would just fill up with steam forever, and we'd have 100% psi. That is true from what I understand from the Discord. You should kind of treat this as if it's like the valve, the pressure in this pipe and the pressure in the inlet eventually equalize. There's like a notion of time. So this isn't it like an instantaneous snapshot. Time matters. And if we look at like, let's say we slow down the experiment tab a bunch. If we like, let's say turn up this pressure, it actually does go pretty much instantly. But there are later puzzles. I've done a couple after this to make sure I understand kind of what's going on, where you can see the actually, if we like, for example, we could see this, I think, if I disconnected this. And what we'll see, I think, no. Nothing very useful, right? Because it's just going to stay full forever. If we had input be 0, output is still full because this pipe got blocked. But if we like cut this off, oh my god, just let me draw a fucking pipe. There we go. So this is blocked, and if we supply a very small amount of pressure here, it like fills up over time. See, it takes some time for that valve to let the pressure here equalize with what was coming in from the 100 psi. And that corresponds to the openness of the valve. And this one was as close to closed as it could be while still being a little bit open. And so we have to have a similar amount, like we have to have a countervailing amount being vented here. So here, like, we need it being vented as quickly as it's coming in, but kind of the opposite of that? I don't totally understand. The closest that I've gotten to, like, understanding what's going on, or I still don't totally understand what's going on, but I have, like, a working model that allows me to assemble correct solutions. It's sort of. So what I'm imagining right now is thinking of this output pipe as a container, which it is. But it's a container that, in order to reach a steady state, it kind of needs to have... I think thinking in terms of input and output isn't really correct, but we can imagine, suppose this was an input pipe, not an output pipe. If we were to vent, what is this? 100 minus X% of it, and let X% of it reach 100% inlet, then it sort of makes sense, right? That we would have, there would be this steady state where, if we imagine this inlet as an outlet, you could sort of imagine, okay, 100% is coming in, 100 minus X is going out, and X is going to this outlet. It sort of makes sense to me, right? You get, at a steady state over here, the amount that you're aiming for. And so why doesn't that make sense for me going the other direction? I mean... I don't really get it. But anyway, like, I think of this pipe as wanting to be 100% full of something. And you can fill it with some percent of being vented and some percent of being given 100 psi gas, steam. And then it sort of makes sense. So I don't know. That's what I'm working on at the moment. And I went on to the next puzzle, which is inverter. And the solution is pretty clear. You just do exactly the same thing you did on the previous puzzle, but you switch which pipe is input, like is vent, which end is vent, and which end is input. Here, instead of actually switching the ends, I have the top still be vent, but I like flipped around these two valves, right? The top is plus then minus, whereas over here it was minus then plus. They're both totally reasonable. And this works. And the next one, we had to actually like discover something slightly different. And this one I struggled with a little bit, but not very long now that I have my like weird model of how pipes work. In this puzzle, they ask us, compare the steam pressure coming from the top with the steam pressure coming from the bottom. If the top is higher, then send out 100 psi. Regardless of how big the difference between them was, or what the input pressure was. If the bottom is lower, then send out 0. And so I struggled a little bit with this, of like, I tried to put a valve that would like carry whatever this top thing is, if and only if it was larger than the bottom, and that's easy, that's what we had a while ago. And then connect that to another valve that would sometimes vent. And that didn't really work out. And I realized that what I should do instead is have two different connections to out, and just have one of them closed and one of them open, depending on the comparisons. And so I have the input pipes. This is a cross, right? We did that in the very first puzzle. We crossed from here to here. So these two valves are both being fed from top and bottom. But one of them has top as plus, the other one has top as bottom. Top as minus. Negative. I use like 100 minus x. I should remember to use positive and negative, not plus and minus, so that you don't get confused when we start talking about equations of like, you know, positive minus negative or whatever. Plus minus minus is much harder to understand. So in this case, this valve is connecting the output to vent. And it is open when the bottom is, when positive, I guess top and bottom would be another way, but when positive is larger than negative, it is open by some non-zero amount. And this valve is connecting the output to an inlet. And it is open when positive is greater than negative by some amount. And so, whether or not positive is greater than negative, one of these two valves will be open. And that's what the output will see. The other valve will not let any steam through it at all, and so we can imagine it as just being a dead end, right? Not like a vent dead end, but a dead end as in like a pipe that just kind of curls back on itself or whatever. So this kind of makes me understand a little bit more about time, because if we look at the experiment thing, and just go much slower, please, we can say, well, right now, we're open to vent, right? Because top is 0 and bottom is 100. But what if we said that we wanted bottom to be, you know, this? 13, I guess. And I want top to be just a little bit more than that. Like, make it 14. Notice it doesn't equalize instantly, because the valve is only 1% open. But eventually, it does go to 100. And if we make the difference between them more marked, like we have, it drops off like instantly. So this notion of time is going to be important eventually. I believe you have to, like, you know, end up building like a computer out of this, where you have a clock that drives things, and so like right now we're working at just equilibriums is all we care about, but eventually time is going to matter, and so this notion of a valve that only lets through steam at like 1% seems sort of important. I don't know. Anyway, so this is correct. And we can fiddle with this as much as we want, as long as it doesn't get lower than the right side. We're still at 100, and as soon as it does, we're at 0. So there you go. That's how far I got without you guys. What's this next puzzle? Excellent. We need one more device. Show that the steamworks produce high pressure steam. We produce it at 100 psi, the only pressure that's true high, but technically any steam pressure above 50 is considered high. As the chair of High Pressure Steam Society, it is my responsibility to make sure inferior low pressure steam producing deviants are not permitted to join. I require a device to correctly determine the quality of the applicant's steam. We still have your design for the 50 psi steam generator. We can use the designs we already made as components. What am I supposed to do? I see. So this is detecting lows and highs and making them as low or high as possible. And okay, good. So this is completed designs are available for use as components. So any previous level that you've done, you now have available in your toolbox to use. So this is where you get like layers of abstraction. You don't have to redo everything from scratch each level. Changing a design will update its implementation in all components. Double-clicking, you can inspect it. You can pop back up by clicking the design. Okay, sure. Pressing the Customize button creates a local design which can be edited and is no longer updated when the original is changed. So this would be important if you like... There are multiple axes on which a design might be good, right? Maybe it's more accurate but slower, or less accurate but faster, and you might want one of those in a design that's different from what you would want in other designs, and so you can have different copies of, say, an inverter. And I understand these like inaccurate devices we're making now we may revisit in the future and improve them. And there are 4 slots to save designs. The best design is also saved so it can be recalled later. Designs can be exchanged using a clipboard string. What's 4 slots? I don't know. Clicking the score shows the global score graph. Okay. One method of creating a specific pressure is by simultaneously supplying and venting a pipe at a specific ratio. A valve is as open as the pressure on the plus minus pressure on the minus, yes. Where P is the pressure, yes, I understand. The pressure generated in this arrangement is, in percent, the openness of the source divided by the sum of the openness of both valves. What? Now, I know how to solve the current puzzle. It's easy. I just need to... I'm trying to understand what these help things are telling me. The openness of the source valve divided by the sum of the openness of both valves. So this fits with our understanding earlier, right? We had an openness of the source valve that was x, and the openness of the top valve was 100 minus x. So when we divided by 100, which, well, we get 50%. We get x%, which is x psi. Okay, fine. So whatever. What we want to do here is somewhere we have a 50% generator, right? And so that's great. So we want where's our input? Is this over here? Is that right? Where's my requirements? Oh, there they are. Yeah. So if we want basically what we had before, but comparing this to 50 instead of comparing top to bottom. And that's no problem. So give me a valve. I'm going to redo this by hand. I don't know. Actually, no. I can just use a comparator, right? Ah, this is level select. I want the design, and just give me a copy of the comparator, right? Sure. So, comparator compares top to bottom, I think? Is that right? Yeah. If top is greater than bottom, it outputs 100. So, we're going to say if top is greater than 50, then we output 100. Great. And or we just, sorry, this is still wrong. I need a valve. No, this is right. I don't need a valve. This is outputting 100 already, right? And we can also connect this to another comparator, right? No. Yeah, because this will... Right, this whole thing already vents if it doesn't meet the requirements. So what we say is whether top is greater than 50, and if that's true, we are sending 100 out. And if it's false, we're sending vent out, right? Sort of. We're letting the thing vent. So I think this is all we need. Let's see if that's correct. In like the experiment tab. Slow down a lot, please. So if this one is our input, is that right? I think so. So as this crosses 50, we're suddenly outputting 100. And as it goes back down, we're outputting 0. And if it's very close to 50, the transition is slow, but it is finished. So if we... and here's... Okay, save... Alright, so this is, I guess, about like saving multiple variants of a thing. So anyway, we run all tests. And it's correct. And with this contraption, you keep the steam envelope okay. Yes. Sure, story. With this pipeline complete, beginning work to compact the high range of pressure values to ones acceptable by the low pressure system. When powered by low pressure steam, but still using 100 psi as the reference input, the pressure buffer was able to scale the input pressure to precisely 1/2. What the? I don't understand what this is saying. Scale the input pressure. The reference input? So I think we're just being asked to implement... No. Can we really be being asked to just do the buffer again, but with different inputs? That can't be true, because there are no... Ah. Instead of a steam inlet, we can use 50% steam. Does that make sense? Or not 50%, but like a 50 psi input. So we could take our version of buffer. I thought when I double clicked on this, I got to inspect it. Do I have to do this? Okay. So we could take this and just instead of putting 100 here, we could put 50. And that makes sense to me, I think. Maybe. We're letting this lets through X% of whatever is here, right? And if this is 50, we'll get X% of 50, which is the same as 50% of X. Okay. So anyway, we don't actually want that. And just give me this. I can't really tell if it's working. Oh, no, something's still wrong here. I need some hundreds going in, right? Yeah, we're never venting anything, so we're comparing X to 0 instead of to 100 in this spot. So we need an inlet of 100, I think? We might want an inlet of 0. I guess it's saying, or 50 rather. Ada claims that a reference of 50, and these are our references. But I don't think so. I think we still want 100 as this. Yeah. So that's what they're trying to say. Powered by high pressure steam. No. Powered by low. This is kind of, we can imagine this as like power, I guess. And this is like the reference that we're comparing the input to. So we provide half as much pressure, but we still do the comparisons in the same way, comparing to 100 and to 0. Multiply by 2? I thought we learned about div by 2. Okay, so yes, we did, but we're going to implement multiply by 2 in a minute. Where's my div by 2? I don't know. I can't use it on this level. I see. That makes sense. That got us halfway there. We can send, but we need to receive. We can amplify our pressure. Oh, that's so weird. So we can do the same thing, but swapping the 100 and the 50. Why is that going to work? I mean, I can just draw it out. It was very clearly described, sort of, insofar as this game's ever clear. So this should be correct, right? According to what Ada told us. Try to understand why. So we're comparing x, which is our input, to 50 here. And comparing it to 0 here. Of course, that makes total sense. We assume that the input will be some fraction of 50. Less than 1. Less than 100% of 50. And so, if we compare it to 50, we get out a fraction of openness, which is the fraction that we had. And we vent that much. And well, sorry, this is backwards. When over here, we're talking about this one. We let in that much of 100. And we let out, this is still a little confusing to me. Well, okay, so suppose our input is 30. Okay. We compare 30 to 0, and we open by we open like 30% of 100. And now here, I know there's this equation they gave us, but let's see if this fits with my earlier model of a pipe needing to be like 100% full of something. I suspect that it won't. Our input was 30, and so we're comparing it to 50. And we get like a 20% open valve venting. So this does not fit with my idea of the... Okay. But we're letting in like 30% of 100 and letting out 20% of that, I guess. It's still okay. So if we look at the equation, I assume it'll be instructive somehow. So we can see the openness of the valves. I had been calling it percent, but it's not. Right? In our case where we have 30 out of 50, the openness is here is 20. Is that right? Yeah. And the openness here is... Sorry, the openness here is 30, and here it's 20. Yes. The pressure generated by this arrangement, which is more or less what we're doing, is the openness of the source valve, which is 30, divided by the sum of the openness of both valves. So 30 divided by 50? No. Yes? If this is supposed to be the source valve, and for us it's 30, and the venting valve openness is 20, then it should be 30 divided by 50. Divided by 50%, which would be like 15, right? Is that what we're trying to do here? What are our requirements again? We want to multiply by 2, not divide by 2. So I still don't understand, why doesn't this divide by 2? Like, openness of the source valve is exactly the input, which let's set to actually be 30, so... there we go. And the openness of this valve is 20, right? So the sum of them is 50, their openness. I think I see what I... Okay. The point is that their openness is supposed to be measured in percent, not as a scalar number, right? Their openness is not 30 and 20, but 30%, i.e. 0.3, and 20%, i.e. 0.2, which when added together is 0.5, i.e. 50%. When you divide by this, you double it, right? Something divided by 0.5 is the same as times 2. Okay. Does the help, like... It really does not say that. It seems to do all its math with numbers that are not percents. It converts to percent later. Could I have just done that conversion later? I don't think so. I don't know. Anyway. Oh, there's like another page there? Does that... No, that's just... Describes design requirements. Oh, that just goes back to the first help page. Okay. And so now we've learned about mul and div, and we're about to learn about encrypt. Entry, June 7th. Design of the pressure inverter. What? I can't follow this story at all, by the way. Okay. Doors. Hours later. A new encryption scheme. Okay. What? What am I... So I have requirements, which are out is encrypt of in. Do I just like connect this up and see what happens? Yes. So something is happening here. Let me... Huh. Okay, though, but let me actually look at what's going on. So we have these three valves. We have a steam inlet that's open by X%. And then we like twice do this thing of, or no. We like vent X% of X% kind of thing here? I don't know, it's a little mysterious. But okay, I mean, clearly the output is going to be always somewhat larger than the input, right? I'm not sure how much larger. It's not like quite twice as large, right? It's sort of interesting, though. When we're at the bottom, it's close to twice as large. In the middle? I don't know. Huh. And then eventually up here, of course, both these valves are totally closed, so it is 100. 96. Who knows why that score is what it is. Okay, fine. We'll just treat that as a black box for now, which is how it's designed, I guess. An unbalanced buffer. How could you reverse such a thing? Okay. A decryption device can be formed by repeatedly guessing the value, encrypting it, and comparing it to the encrypted input. Okay, so this is, I guess, about like, here's our encryptor and here's a comparator. This is about feeding an output back into itself as input, I guess. So we can start having like computational loops of some kind. Okay, hang on. Sorry, try again? Guessing a value, which we can start at any amount, 0 probably. Encrypting it. And then comparing the output of that encryption to the actually encrypted input. Okay. So clearly, this is pointing left, so its output is here. So the output of encryption we're feeding into a comparator, and we're comparing it to the input. And then we feed that back into itself. I guess. Now, what do I send to the output? This? Probably this, right? It doesn't seem very happy with me. doesn't like any of these answers. So, I mean, I could instead send this out, but I don't think that's right. It is right. Why is this right? This is so weird because a comparison, of course, yields only 100% pressure. We built it that way. And some percent of that comparison is going in here to be encrypted. All right, remind me what this does? It actually... Okay, hang on. It's not outputting 100. Why? If we go look at our comparator, isn't that what we had it do? That's what this is, right? It's a comparator. So our comparator's tests, well, let's experiment with it. Right, it outputs either 100 or 0, which is fine. That's what I thought. Now here in this new level, decrypt, we need to stop thinking of this as an output of the comparator and think of this as 3 different things connected to the same pipe. So the comparator is trying to output 100. I don't understand this at all. Okay, tell me a hint. When the 2 inputs to the comparator are equal, the output is neither pressurized nor vented. That's true. That's why the comparator can output values other than 100. Or, it doesn't output any value. It just leaves alone its output. Right? Like the pipe that is connected to its output just doesn't connect to the comparator at all, in a sense, right? Or doesn't connect to either vent or source. So we have some value coming out of here, which starts at like probably 0 or 100, or really, I don't know. It starts at chaos, right? But I can't step, right? I can just run this very slowly, and that's the best I can do. So adjusting this does nothing because it's an output. You could make it an input, but we don't want to do that. If we start with like 0 pressure going in here, then there's, well, So let's imagine the comparator starts out putting at 100. It probably starts at 0. I will imagine 0 then, right? And so 0 will not be more than bottom. And therefore, top will be more than 0. Therefore, the comparator will output 100%. And this encryptor will be receiving like 100%, I guess. And it sends that amount in here. And now we have like 100 going in, and so this comparator would output 0, right, which would feed 0 in here. But that's only seems to be like an infinite loop because we're thinking discretely and in terms of instantaneous transitions. Instead, we have a continuous change, a time that is continuous in time, a change that is continuous in amount and non-instant in time, right? It continues over time and produces a continuous pressure differential. So for as long as this pressure is higher than this pressure, this, which represents our guess at the output, is too low. And therefore we increase the amount of pressure in this pipe that's being fed to the bottom. And we keep doing that until the output of our encryptor is exactly equal to the input, gradually increasing its pressure. And then when that's the case, these two are the same, and this is what we had guessed the output is what we had guessed the input to the encryptor might have been, or something. And then we leave that alone. Okay, this is very weird. But it kind of makes sense. Oh my god, out of 14? Are you kidding me? We could improve the precision of all our designs. Must have more information about these techniques. Okay, yeah, I get it. The other end claims P, yeah. Ada is fine, staying with her sister. She departed to her sister. It's very funny. Okay. Together, we've made a lot of progress. Previous designs were inaccurate. Only... Oh, you can use the scroll wheel to go up and down. That's nice. Or forward and back. Only when the valves were perfectly balanced and produced an output of 50 was the result perfect. You could sense how open any valve is by placing a second valve which vented the steam and adjusting its openness. When the two valves are equally open, the pressure between them will be exactly 50. Okay. Why do I want this? A steam pressure adding component. Okay, what am I supposed to do? So, I just want to connect this to the output, but I can't because it's already being partially vented for me. And it talks about connecting a second valve, which is very lovely, I'm sure. So I think I'm just meant to connect this to the plus side of the second valve and also to the output. Let's see if that makes any sense. So we have this second valve. I don't know. Let's just see what happens. And if it does work, we can try to explain it. And if not, we may understand. I don't know. Then trying to understand why it doesn't work is not as instructive, maybe. Okay, these are all wrong. Great. So, God, would you slow down, please? Okay. So, we currently have a valve that's 0% open. So no steam is getting through. Is that right? I think so. Remind me how these things work. If they're equal, yeah. If it's equal or lower, they're closed, nothing goes through. Got it. Okay, give me the text again. Placing a second valve, which vented the steam, and adjusting its openness. When they are equally open, the pressure between them will be 50. But who cares about the pressure being 50? That's my question. Also, let's see whether that's true. If we go experiment and I say, give me this. It's not exactly 50. It's like closer to 50 than the input was. But there's no feedback loop here. I mean, I do have access to valves, right? I could put one in if I wanted. Fine. I don't know if I want another or not. A second valve, which vented the steam, and adjusting its openness, which is what we are doing. When the two valves are equally open, the pressure between them is 50. Adjust the value until that is the case. What two valves? This one and this one, right? And so this is not correct, which is fine. But what is it measuring? What is it doing? I mean, it's correct for 50. That's nice. So, am I meant to compare something to 50 somehow? Like, I don't know. Give me the hint, I guess. Increase or decrease the amount we open the bottom valve until the pressure between them is 50? I think that makes some sense. What's our amp 50? We have that. What does it do again? It like... God, I don't remember. It turns 50 into 100. It turns high signals into 100 and low signals into 0. So the point is, if it's higher than 50, we increase the pressure, and if it's lower than 50, we decrease the pressure. Right, this says 100 and 0, but our goal is to stabilize, and so we can think of this as increase and decrease, because it'll be feeding back into itself until it becomes stable. So we have this amp 50. I mean, this seems right. It seems like what they're describing to me. We feed an amount into this valve, which is sort of arbitrary at the beginning. And if it's greater than 50, then we decrease it. No. This is sort of the opposite, right? Does this make any sense? If I run this, what happens? Like, say we set the input. No. So this is still not correct. All we're doing is like getting the output to 50 at some point. Ah. I shouldn't... I shouldn't route this, which we know will always be 50, because we've equalized. I should route the output of this thing. So... I guess I could have moved it. Oh well. I can put that stuff back, right? There are move commands. I should learn what they do. Or how to use them. So we can take, like, add those two, let's say, move them out. And move that over. Sort of. But instead of connecting this to out, we're going to route it only to this guy. And we're going to send you to the out, right? Now this looks right. We have an 8 in, and we're sending 8 out. Now, surely there were, like, better ways to lay out these pipes. But this works. Now let me just reinforce why that works. We're using this thing fed back into itself as a way to guess a value, right? We set it higher or lower. We're sending a value here. And when... When the value is the same as this value, the pressure between them is 50. And therefore, when we get to amp 50, we compare to 50 and nothing happens. We leave the input pressure and the output... No. Ah, right. This effectively becomes disconnected. It's as if it's just a do-nothing pipe, right? Connected not to vent or to source, but to, like, itself. At that point, the output that it was previously producing no longer has anything influencing it, higher or lower, and so it stays where it was, which is equal to what was coming in here. That makes sense, I think. I'm still not, like, super internalizing this idea of, like, guessing an output and adjusting it, but at least I have a pattern I can apply. Okay, I think I'm, like, kind of getting the hang of this game, and we're going to do one more video at least, while I, like, keep going to see if I get anywhere. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.